Actually, don't put that in there because that's really, really bad. Can we delete that part?
Yes, let's delete all that.
We're going to have a lot of notes for Doug.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I shouldn't have even told you that we can delete stuff because then...
Damn it, Rachel.
Hey, Warners, welcome to another episode of Women Your Mother Warned You About. It's Rachel Pitts, mommy, wifey, mortgage loan officer with U.S. Mortgage, and creator of the Ultravit Lifestyle. And I'm here with
Gina Trimarco, master sales trainer at Sales Gravy, also known as a master improv trainer. We are so excited to bring you a new episode coming into the new year with an attorney from South Carolina. Her name is Allison Gordon. I'll let Rachel talk just a little bit about her.
Yep. Allison is a family law attorney here in our area of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and you will enjoy hearing her story and why she does what she does. She has a powerful why as to why she focuses on family law and specifically leans towards helping people who are involved in domestic violence scenarios. And there's a lot of great information in here for anyone who might be involved in a tricky relationship or know someone who they suspect is in a domestic abuse situation. So hopefully you'll get some great information from this. And Allison is definitely a woman your mother warned you about.
Yes, she is for sure. So we do touch on, so if you're just tuning in, depending on if you're a guy or you're a girl, you're in business, you're not, you're in sales or you're not. This episode, we want you to kind of think about, are you or have you been in a situation where maybe the relationship wasn't so great and it had an impact on the rest of your life? And what does that look like? And you might be in that right now. And I really encourage you to, even though this might not be a topic you're interested in, is to listen to this. And it's not just about domestic violence. It's about being in a relationship that's not healthy for you, whether it's abusive or not abusive. It's how do you get out of it? We talk a lot about divorce. So I just want to put that out there, that you think about that as you dive into this episode. Or you might know somebody that needs to hear these things and you're trying to find a way to talk to them. So I've said it a million times that until I got out and started a new life, I wasn't living my best life. So I think you'll enjoy this very, what's the word for this, Rachel? Energetic interview with Allison Gordon. Yes? Would you call it energetic?
Yeah, energetic works.
Yeah. So sit back, Warners, and take a listen to this episode with Allison Gordon.
Hey, Warners. I am here with Gina Trimarco, and we have a fabulous guest, Allison Gordon, today. She is a super awesome woman your mother warned you about and attorney.
I am dying to hear about how she's a woman your mother warned you about, that in the same sentence as attorney. Yeah, I mean, well, we've been warned about attorneys in general, but I am dying to hear more about the, I mean it in the sweetest way. I mean, some of my best friends are attorneys.
So with that, welcome, Allison.
Hi. I was say it depends on who we're talking about as to who I was warned about me. I mean,
right. Well, I met Allison at the gym that I go to every morning. And the reason I knew right away, I could just tell there's just some women have a personality that's bigger than even their own physical body. And Allison, you have like a very big personality. And I was like, what's with this chick? And then we started, I could just tell you had a powerful personality. And then when we started talking.
Wait, how did that make you feel, Rachel?
I was like, who's this bitch?
Okay.
What's up with this girl?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that because we talked about this for a second before Allison got here. So I want you to elaborate on that because I think it's important.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what is this girl here? And then I was like, oh, she's a woman your mother warned you about. That it's like Gina said, it's like looking in a mirror. a powerful woman that doesn't take any shit really from anybody. And then as I've gotten to know you, I'm like, yeah, I was right.
Yeah. In my profession, I can't take any shit. I mean, it's a man's world and what I do for real. And, I'm 5'8", but I still am smaller than a lot of the guys. And I will wear 4 or 5 inch heels because you are going to be eye level with me because you are not looking down at me ever. But I'm that person because I have to be that voice for my clients. So I've always been like this. I think as a kid, I was called bold, like it was some bad thing or something. It's definitely not a bad thing. I mean, that's just the beginning.
What were you called? Bold. Oh, yeah. I've gotten that adjective.
Thank you.
I don't know. Nobody's ever called me bold. I think they've called me harsh. I've gotten harsh a lot.
I've definitely been called worse things than bold. So
I like bold. Bold does it. You are bold. That's for sure.
Bold. Bold is, yeah.
Well, let's just start with what made you decide to get into law in the first place, Allison?
When I was a child, I argued a lot. And I say that because a lot of people think that's what we do for a living. That's actually not what we do. We persuasively speak and come to some kind of reasonable conclusion. With that said, I thought that was the reason I should be a good lawyer. As a kid, I think a lot of people think that. But as I got older, I saw the world in a little bit differently. Had some own personal experiences that I thought were unfair. I got into an abusive relationship, and the law changed in 2015. So this was all before that. I think I'd be in a different position now, but I felt like nobody really did anything for me. It was like, I got hurt and I had a lot of extra protection because of who my family may have been or whatever in a small town. And it was never enough. So I was like, at some point I decided, once I got myself out of the situation, I decided I needed to do something for other people. And because not everybody had anywhere near the protection that I may have had, or the ability to have the protection. So what were they going to do? Who was going to be there for them and who was going to be their voice? So that was a really big thing to me, is overcoming everything that's happened or happened in that relationship to be everything that person said I could never be. So everything I do, everything I represent, or everyone I represent, I remember all of that. And I do a lot of domestic violence work. And that's where that passion comes from, doing what I do. So personal experiences.
My first reaction was to say that's awesome, but I don't want it to come off as that's awesome. You were abused and you went through that. No, it's awesome that you can take the pain and do something to help other people and be a voice for other people. And that's super powerful, because we don't all, we're, especially as women, not all of us are going to have a strong voice. And I think that's a big reason why we started this podcast, was we have big voices. And so if we can say the things that other women are afraid to say, then maybe that will change their lives just a little bit.
And, I use a lot of my own personal experiences to represent my clients. I represent victims in domestic violence who are charged with crimes, because at some point you get tired of it and you stand up for yourself. Or I actually do some victim advocacy work. I have a couple cases like that right now. And those are, I'm so passionate about it, but I remember that feeling, and I don't want anyone else to ever feel that way. And it's the reason I went into doing this. So what better way than to use my own experiences than to help someone else, so they never have to experience it either. And they turn a nasty situation or not so, past or not so proud of, and turn it into a success story. My grandfather actually used to say that the best revenge is success, and it's never left me.
It's interesting to have met you, Allison, because, I shared with you that I went through a domestic abuse situation in my first marriage, and statistically, women don't tend to leave, and it's harder for women to leave and successfully escape those kind of scenarios. And I use that as well to try to help people, and I support some certain charities that help these types of women. But what have you run into that are perhaps misconceptions that women have about leaving, because as you and I know, men who are abusers tend to brainwash their victim into believing that they can't survive without them. So what are some misconceptions that you run into that women find, or that you would advise, for people that are in those kind of scenarios?
So I think it's really important. Obviously, I never had kids or I was financially dependent, but those are two major issues that abusers will use to control their quote victim, okay, or their spouse, their girlfriend, whomever, right? One thing is what they're saying. They all say the same thing. I could tell you my story from 11 years ago and compare it. And I did this in law school when I was a victim advocate in the prosecutor's office. It was my first experience ever dealing with people in my situation or my prior situation. And they were like, oh my God, your story is the same as mine. He said the same things as mine, because they're all the same. So if anything I say doesn't resonate with you, understand one thing, they all say the same thing because they're all full of shit. So that would be the biggest thing. Also, a lot of people who are married, they run into this a lot. They're scared to leave because he's telling me he's going to take the kids. Without obviously getting into any kind of legal advice that someone could rely on. There's something in the courts and family court called the best interest factors. Okay. It's the best interest of the child. I don't care, domestic violence is one of the factors. Okay. Who is the abuser? There's different types, different factors. I'm not going to get into all of them because not everyone has the same ones that apply to their cases. So it would be a waste of time, I guess. But there's, the abuser doesn't get to decide who the kids go with. Okay. So you can just, sometime at some point you just get through it and you get the strength to go meet with someone who hopefully has the strength to help you get away from it. Sometimes it's the getting away and staying away. There's a lot of places, there's shelters, there's women's shelters. In fact, if there is an abuse situation and someone leaves and goes to a shelter, the person who is charged with domestic violence, actually, it's another crime for them to even attempt to breach the property of a domestic violence shelter. So you're safe there. I know it doesn't sound like it. Someone says, oh, it's a piece of paper. Restraining orders, yes, they are pieces of paper. Nobody can guarantee your safety, but the more you stand up for yourself, the more you believe in yourself, and the more you stay away from it. And with that said, is taking the time to really strengthen your own mind and get away from it, stay away from it, not go back, so you don't repeat the cycle with someone else. That's a really big thing I noticed with people is it's not the first one, it's in the second one. Oh my God, is the third one going to kill me? And it typically escalates. These guys are not men. They do the sweet honeymoon phase in the beginning and then boom, it's like light and day. So you have to look out for that, but they know what they're looking for when they find you. It's guys like that don't come anywhere near me anymore. At all. They hate me actually. And they talk shit about me when I represent victims who are charged with crimes. I had one time, the guy was like, I hope you effing die. Okay, come and say it to my face then. Let's do it. You won't say it to my face.
I was going to ask you, do you run into, I'm sure it's really interesting who you represent and then versus who you're going up against in court. I'm guessing that most of those men are represented by men or some of them represented by women attorneys.
I actually just finished a DV case on the 6th. That was 2 days ago. No, on the 5th, I got it dismissed. But it was, and look, I am a pretty good judge of when it's legit and when it's not. And I do not, having been a real victim, I have a problem with people who play victim and are really just the problem. And that's what that situation was. And on the record the other day, I just got to announce, well, that's fine. My client's charge got dismissed yesterday. I bet you didn't know that. Now did you? Not, and obviously that in your face type of way, but it was like a nice moment for the moment that it was. But I deal with both sides. I mean, I've dealt with victims who are charged with a crime because they finally said enough is enough and swung back. I've dealt with people who are, it's like a fatal attraction. The other one can't get over it. So they goad them into something or they hurt themselves and then say it was the other person. That's off the top of my head, the two that stick out the most.
Yeah, but when you're dealing in court with the opposing attorney, How are the dynamics with that?
When someone's charged with a crime, the other side is the state of South Carolina, so the solicitor's office. So it really, I mean, I want to say, excuse me, the domestic violence, like we have domestic abuse court. It just depends on the rotation of the solicitors. But we also, if it's a general sessions crime, and I'm not sure how far this podcast reach, if it's other states or not, but mind you, this is all in South Carolina, okay? Because I'm not licensed in any other state. But the general sessions is there's certain solicitors that do the domestic violence. They have certain groups that do certain things. So it just depends on the rotation. Honestly, I enjoy working with the solicitor's office on all my cases. They're a pleasure to work with. But I don't feel as though I've had any issues based on gender of the solicitor or the other attorney in a civil case. I feel like we're supposed to be objective and look at it as if we have no emotions. I mean, sometimes it happens. I get pretty passionate about my cases, though.
I bet.
I really, if it's not legit, I'm gonna figure it out, just like the other day. And if it's ridiculous and the victim finally, the bully, the abuser played victim or crime victim, or this is just stupid, or are you got to be kidding me? I'll find it out.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this, because it's something that maybe you can help me with. I've got this little passion project. I think you know what I'm talking about, Rachel. And it is South Carolina related, and I think this is an issue in other states as well. I'm not that many, I don't think. But when I was going through my divorce, the thing that was, and I wasn't in an abusive situation or anything like that.
Right.
And I was able to get out on my own, and I didn't have kids and things like that. But what I will say is that this state is really fucked up when it comes to getting a divorce, because to me, it's the most ridiculous. You must physically separate for 12 months before you can even file for a divorce hearing. And with the anticipation, I said to my attorney, I said, this is so stupid, because all this did for me, and everyone's got a different, we were talking about this before the show, everyone's divorce is different, but it created more stress between the two of us, because who's paying to move out? Who's moving out? What are the costs going to be? The strain of that. Now there's even more money problems. And my attorney said, well, the idea is for you guys to reconcile. And I'm like, that's the stupidest idea in the world, because how do you reconcile if you are moving out and all you're doing is fighting more?
A reconciliation can be in South Carolina.
How do you? It makes no sense to me that you are forced into, you must physically separate before you can file for divorce.
Right. So that's one of the grounds. We actually have 4 fault-based grounds and 1 no fault, which is what you just described, the 1 year separation without cohabitation or reconciliation. Yeah. But we have 4 fault-based grounds. We have habitual drunkenness. Okay. We have adultery, which everyone knows about. We have abandonment or desertion. And then we have physical cruelty. Now with physical cruelty, it does not is not satisfied by mental cruelty. So domestic violence would qualify if it's physical.
But mental abuse does not qualify. Yeah.
Mental abuse is not a ground. No, I see that a lot. Like I'm talking shit to the other person. I mean, yes, in some but there are certain elements that must be met. Those words mean, okay, they sound great, but adultery is the easiest one to describe. Is you don't have to prove actual penetration. Right. Inclination, opportunity. You look at text messages. I proved adultery in a case once based on flight records, hotel rooms, names on the flight records, and my client's work schedule. It wasn't him, plus text messages. But the best way to prove, in my opinion, when you have stuff like that is you hire a private investigator. I mean, that's someone to follow them around.
But if you're in a no fault situation, right? You're in a no fault situation, and let's just say maybe there was some mental abuse, and that does not qualify, but you are miserable and your life is falling apart because of it. Now you got to go another 12 months to get out of it, and there's no other recourse.
So there's this thing, so South Carolina doesn't actually have, and it's 12 months from the date of the move out without reconciliation. If the parties reconcile, i.e. they hook up one night, you got to start the 12-month clock all over. And South Carolina case law is very clear as well. It's not roommate situation. One actually has to physically have a separate mailing address. But if you move out, okay, and you go see a lawyer and you say, I want to file for divorce. Well, of course, we're not ripe, what we call ripe, not ready yet for the one, now based on a 1-year separation. Okay. I'm sticking to that. We're not there yet. Right. Well, South Carolina does not have legal separation like other states would have, where during that split time, y'all can go date other people. No, you're still married during the 1 year. Okay. During that time, we can file what's called a separate maintenance and support action. It's not a divorce. It has the effect, I guess, of a legal separation, but it's not, you're still married. So if you do a final hearing, and I'm kind of skipping over a few steps, of course, if you do a final hearing for separate maintenance and support, meaning the case is over, and then you have satisfied or reached an agreement or what have you, or a trial. You either try a case or but you don't necessarily try. Actually, let me back up. Separate maintenance and support, if you do a final hearing before the 1 year is over, then you have settled the issues on or come to an agreement on potentially the property distribution. And now with property equitable distribution, and alimony, those two things cannot be modified at a later time. So if y'all agree in the separate maintenance and support action at the final hearing, waiving alimony, and here's the way we're dividing property, when you go to file for the divorce, let's say it's 60 days later, and the only issue on the table is the actual divorce, you get the divorce decree and you can now marry other people, then you can't go back at that that divorce hearing and say, wait, I wanted the house. Oh, no, wait, it's done. Now the kids, child support, visitation, and custody, that's modifiable upon the material change in circumstances affect in the best interest of the child or children. So that's stuff relating to the child or children can be changed, but there's a specific showing that must be made.
Hey guys, just a real quick reminder, if you'd like to find social media links to me, Rachel, Gina, and our favorite Warner Keith, go visit womenyourmotherwarnsyouabout.com, where you can also find some cool free downloads. Now back to the show.
Here's my big beef with this situation is that all of that is great. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, words.
Right,
I
like,
get it.
You know what? Can we just? The point is that it forces a situation where like you do have women who are abused and like are afraid to leave, but you do have women who are afraid to leave who are not abused, right? Because they're afraid to leave because financially, how am I going to do it, and all the things that go with it, and you have a state that is saying, you must go out and bear this if you want to get out of this marriage without fault, or find or create drama like adultery or whatever to get out of it. And the point is it's forcing people to stay in unhappy marriages that may contribute to an unhappy family and unhappy children, and keep a woman from moving forward with her life because she doesn't know how to get out of it, because it's a pain in the ass to go through all these hoops and get an attorney to do all that.
I think it's an archaic thing because in court, they'll ask, is there anything that the court can do to help the parties reconcile?
I almost laughed. I almost laughed when the judge says that.
People always ask me, what if he says yes? And I say no. Well, it doesn't matter. You both got to reconcile or agree to it. Otherwise, it's a no. Okay. So that's, no worries, because obviously they understood that was a possibility. But I think it's a bit archaic because obviously we don't want to reconcile. We want to get the hell out of here. So, it is a long time. South Carolina does have one of the longest waiting periods. That is a really long time for people who can come to a real good agreement, but just haven't been separated. I've met with people who are 30 days out and already know what they want. And
we had an agreement within 2 weeks of me moving out, and we just had to sit and wait. And then add COVID to it, and the courts are backed up. And now it's a 16-month process to get a divorce.
And then if fault-based grounds, it's like 90 days, I think, something to the, it's faster, but you can't collude. You can't, you got to be able to prove it. But nonetheless, I mean, I just, with COVID, honestly, I'm at the point where I'm like, listen, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know when it's going to be. Yeah. I don't know. Because yes, we have a new order that actually suspends in-person hearings generally. Okay, there's some exceptions, of course, for emergencies, but as of this coming Monday, the 11th.
Wow, thank God. My divorce just happened a few weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah, hey, party was a party. I got a cake, lady.
Oh, wait, she had a party.
I did. Well, I had a lunch. I had a new life lunch.
I want cake.
I'll do another one.
You can come to my birthday party for cake. Coming up. I just ordered invitations today.
Are you having a birthday party?
Yes, I am. It's going to be epic. I'm turning 45.
Since when do you have birthday parties?
Since now.
It's awesome because I'm all about the birthday party.
I threw that Christmas party for Legends last year or 2019 at Christmas, and it was like epic. And then when it was funny because Felix's company had a Christmas party and everybody thought that I organized it just because I got the band. And I'm like, I kept getting thanked for organizing. I'm like, this is not my party. But it made me go, I'm going to have a party for my birthday. Because I do know how to throw a good party. Which I do.
For you. Good.
Anyways, side note, I can speak to that 12-month period from my divorce with Roxy's father. And same thing as Gina. There was no violence. There was no abuse, no adultery. I just decided that I wanted to take my life back. And even though there wasn't abuse and there wasn't any kind of like dramatic situation, the 12-month period was really hard because, to your point, Gina, it allowed a whole year's worth of fighting about what might happen.
And not just that, but you can have an agreement and then you got to wait. And then it's like, screw this. I'm done waiting, and then get mad and shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were those up and down moments, right? It was just,
right.
Sure.
It was ridiculous.
Threats of, who I actually never ever threatened to withhold my child's visitation rights or try to do any custody from her dad. Cause I like, it was never in my mind. He loves her. He's, but he would throw threats of like, well, this and that, and I'll take custody. And I was like, no, you won't. It's not like that. It's fine. But it does present a lot of opportunity for just a lot of drama for people that don't. I think the intention probably was good when that law was set into place.
In 1825.
Yeah.
Who knows? Honestly, I don't remember what the reasoning was for it. Because it's a really long time.
My attorney did say, the purpose is so that, there's a possibility of reconciliation. I said, so how many people have reconciled that you've represented?
Oh, I've represented someone who reconciled, had dismissed their case.
Oh, really? Okay, so there's one.
I don't mean get back together like marital wise. I mean, they hooked up.
Oh, they hooked up.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the state's mentality too. Is like eventually someone's going to cave, and then we'll keep them together because the divorce clock started again.
Mm.
Yeah, if you want to hook back up with your separated spouse, why don't you wait till after the divorce? You can wait a few months, you'll be all right.
That was my running joke with my ex, because he took me out for my birthday, which was 2 weeks after our divorce. And that was my running joke because I was back at our house. I'm like, oh, I can legally sleep here now and have sex with you.
That's great. And I'll tell you, as a lawyer, I've been doing it like long enough to where I'm like, this is the way it is, and it's an emotional court. People, so when I'm like kind of nonchalant, it's not because I don't care. You see it so much, you're like, yeah, it's happening again. Okay, whatever. Or, but it's it never ends. The emotions really don't. Think about the person you fell in love with, and the reason you married them is you thought it would be forever, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, life changes. And I tell my clients this: remember, when I walk out of that courtroom, my life stays the same and yours doesn't. it's understandable if you're upset. But with that said, I like that you were able to have that reaction and go out with your spouse. More people should be able to look, it didn't work. Shit happens. That's kind of my mentality about what happened, in the past with my nose or whatever. Shit happens. Look at me now. So I think that's more people, if they can do it, they should do it. There's no reason to hate someone. It just didn't work. They're not always the devil.
To Gina's point about therapy, and I thought of this just as you guys were talking, that when I left my domestic abuse situation with my first husband, I actually went to stay in one of those safe houses of CASA. I stayed there for 2 weeks. And it was a really, really good experience because they offered I had counseling every single day. And what I was taught about the cycle of abuse, and I didn't really know what that was. And that's what Allison was just talking about. There's a honeymoon period where they're wooing you, and then the tension escalates, and then there's an explosion of violence, and then it circles around again for that honeymoon period. I learned about that. And I also learned the most important thing, which allows me to not hold a grudge against this man that hurt me, which is there's two people in every relationship. And someone who is the victim, and that word is, I don't like that word. I'm sure you don't like the word too much either, Allison, but the person that is the victim of the abuse, once it happens one time and you stay, then you're allowing it. And right. That's just... And it's normal because it's, you're in this relationship, you love this person, or you thought you loved this person, and you're under this manipulation web, and it's hard to leave. But there's two people involved, and that's so important for someone to grasp. And it really, I believe that it does take some therapy and someone else. Like, you can't fix your fucked up mind with your own fucked up mind. Like, you need someone, a professional, to help you work through that so that you can get to a healthy place like Allison and I are now, with it. It's just, it takes time and it takes help.
And if anyone's listening and needing the advice or the help or the extra push, it's look at Rachel and I. We've been through hell and here we are. It's possible. You can reach out to, me, of course, anytime, if I can help. But it took, and I swear, I don't know if anyone's ever done this, and everyone laughs at me when I say it, but I would literally stand in front of me. Y'all know I'm kind of vain right now. I after all that, I lost all this weight and I got myself together. I never going to happen to me again. But I would stand in front of the mirror and I would literally tell myself that I was beautiful, and that I will be loved again. And I almost want to cry because I'll never forget being told that no one will ever love you like I love you. I bet you've heard the same thing, Rachel, because again, guys, they're all the same. Mm-hmm. So let's hope no one ever loves me like he did, right? Uh-huh. That for a point. Well, okay.
And it's so true what Allison said about the same things. And if you're out there and you've heard before, you'll never be able to survive without me. You can't make it without me. You need me. I'll find you. Like all the things.
Heard it all. Yep, even my first year of law school, he said it to me, and I had a 3-way call with the solicitor in a sheriff's office, the sheriff, and it was, this is going to stop. And I would hear, what was that? 2012. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's, when I left, he told me all these things, and guess what? He did find me.
Yeah.
And then he wooed me back for a night. And then that was a disaster. And I lived through it. And actually looking back on that scenario, if you're in a situation where you don't think that you can get out and have a better life, I'm here to tell you that that's one of the top things in my life that made me so strong. Like, I know at this point, if you aren't going to kill me, then you better bring it on, because I know what I can take. And it's just made me a stronger person. It's given me a lot of my resilience.
But you recognize those, like I always joke, I see a pink flag and I'm out. I'm gone. And that's why I don't date. Right. Not this time, because it's so like that, earlier, like, oh, what, women, we said about the women that were warned, or people warn about us, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. guys can't deal, well, boys can't deal with a woman like me because I'm strong. Well, that's my point. Like us, they're back. Hey. But they can't deal with that, and they try to bring it down. I had this happen recently with a narcissist who thought he would outsmart me, and I told him to stay on the equal or lesser value. And he goes, "What's that supposed to mean?" I said, "Equal or lesser intelligence, because you can't hang with the big dogs." Like, nice try. Whoop, whoop, baby. Yeah, don't try me. But you know, they're so saying I don't. It's just amazing to me after everything I've learned. I took myself in law school. I said, I am here for me. Nobody else. I don't care. This is about me. I'm here to make my life what anyone said I couldn't do. Right. And I did. And, you know, you get your independence back, you get your strength back. And those guys tend to not come around anymore. They try, but you recognize it. You recognize
it. Yeah.
Well, and they recognize it too. They recognize that they can't put you in their cage and put you on their leash and make it work. That it just a certain type of woman doesn't fit in a cage.
And men they'll run if you're strong enough and you've become aware enough, and you're willing to be that strong woman. They will not spend time with you past 1 or 2 dates.
But no, I try to distance myself as fast as I can from people. The minute I hear one thing, like it's something like it's your subconscious or something that like, wait, that sounds like something isn't right. This guy met me at a grocery store, and I'll tell you within one day, I was like, something isn't right. Like, you're married. Nice car. I like your wife's car, I think is what I said to him. And he wasn't married. He was a narcissist, but my brain was like 50-50 chance. It's one or the other. So I just started laughing because the best thing to do is ignore a narcissist. They can't take it. They take it. But I'm very proud of myself, and I want other people who are or have been in my position or are currently going through it to be where I'm at, because it's a great feeling to be happy. You deserve to be happy. You know, it doesn't feel like you ever will be, but I promise you will be. You just have to get away from the person holding you down or whatever it is that's holding you down, you know.
And if I can chime in on that, because we can all agree to it. I wasn't physically abused, but I wasn't happy. Right. I'll just leave it at that. And it permeated every aspect of my life to a point where my closest friends were like, enough, including Rachel. Right. And people see it, but you can't see it because you're in it. And it's real easy for the three of us to say, you know, get out and your life's going to be better. And it's real easy for us to say it, but it's not really that easy for us to say it. We've lived it. It just sounds like it sounds easy for us to say it. But somewhere in there, you have to dig in deep and find some courage, some fearlessness, some adrenaline rush that's fight or flight, and instead of fight, get the fuck out and flight. And
my friend Caitlin said to me in my living room in Jacksonville, Florida, I'll never forget, because that's where I moved when I was getting away from it. She looked at me and she said, when you've had enough, you'll leave. I have never, and it's been 10 years. I have never forgotten it. I tell people that when I'm counseling them, attorney and counselor, you know, I say it all the time. You have to be the one to make the decision. Again, you know, we can say it until we're blue in the face. I had my roommate in college, my best friends, you know, we love you and we will not watch you go through this. Call me when it's over, kind of thing. And I'm to this day, I mean, I got my best, you know, that girl's Christmas card here with her kids, you know, my fridge, like my best friends, they're still here. And when you've had enough, you will leave. And I have never, ever, ever, ever forgotten it. And I always tell people that when they need to hear it. You have to, because you have to be the one, you meaning that person has to be the one that says enough is enough. And you know, you're not always going to be successful the first time you go. It happens. Don't ever think you're a failure. We've all been there, but eventually, damn it, that's it. And you're out.
And your life will get better, which is, you know, what Rachel and several other women kept saying to me is that the changes it's going to have on your life that you can't see in this moment, it is going to change everything once you get out and you look back at, did I really stay in that unhappiness and that in a place that put me in such an idle place that diminished me mentally and emotionally. Like, was that really who I was? And once you get out of it, you can take back your life and have a better life and heal yourself.
And learn from it and use those experiences. Again, revenge, success is the best revenge. Use those experiences to help other people or to do something in your life you never thought you'd do, i.e. become a counselor, a therapist, or something else. Use it to fuel your fire. I'll tell you what, nobody was on my level when it came to law school competition. Y'all compete with me. I'm here for me and myself and I. And it was, I'm here because someone pissed me off. If y'all think you pissing me off is going to make it worse for me and I'm going to fail or I'm going to do worse in this class, you have no idea who you're dealing with. And I just let people think what they want because I used that pissed off feeling to fuel my fire. And here I am. and it's okay to use all of that to fuel your future. That's perfectly acceptable.
Fuel your future.
To that.
Fuel your future.
Well, and going back to what Gina said just a few minutes ago, it when you're entangled in a domestic abuse situation, it's really that you're not just in it, you're tangled up in it. And that's why it's so hard for people to, and any relationship, especially a long-term relationship, my second divorce, I was in the relationship for 10 years and it wasn't like any big event. Like I said, it was just time to go. And it was still difficult to leave. So I like to add on to what these ladies are saying and add, when the time is right, the pathway will present itself, because sometimes you want to leave, you need a new scenario, you don't know what you're going to do, you have no idea how you're going to get out, but the pathway will present itself. And that's how it happened with me. That I think I've said, and I don't know if I've told the story in another podcast, but when my pathway opened, it was my doctor, my gynecologist, that just kept bringing me back in because she needed to do more tests because she could sense that there was something bad going on. And she's the one that finally told me, we didn't even talk about the scenario. She just said, it never really gets better, Rachel. So when you're ready, here's a phone number for you to call and you can go to this place. And so the pathway will present itself, and then you will be in for, it's hard. Any divorce is hard. It doesn't matter if there's kids, if there's not kids, it's hard emotionally. There's a lot of things to work out. But if you can kind of visualize the light at the end of the tunnel, like when I got divorced the second time, I knew it was going to be hard and nasty. But I just visualized walking through this storm and just keeping my eyes focused on that future, like Allison was talking about, that exists, that future of happiness that I knew that I deserved, that you deserve, that everyone deserves, to just be happy and peaceful and live your life and not in fear and anxiety. It's not the way to live.
A lot of people too don't recognize what abuse is. It's not, like we said, physical. It's something, did I tell you could talk? Mm-hmm. Or why are you wearing that? I mean, little things that you don't even recognize at first, but that becomes a much bigger issue at a later time. You probably won't recognize half the stuff that happened until later. Like you said, when someone recognizes it for you, and your friends who are strong and don't put up with it are the most hated person, that abuser. They will isolate you from that person because, God, you are not allowed to hang out with someone who tells you I'm wrong.
Well, that's why I'm passionate about this as a passion project down the road of creating a group housing kind of program that allows women because a lot of women, women who are physically abused, especially in South Carolina, they do have places that they can go, but women who might be mentally abused or just mentally done and can't wrap their head around. I mean, I remember trying to move out and I couldn't find a place to live. I was self-employed. I couldn't find a place to rent because I was self-employed. And then I had to find a temporary place that was a snowbird rental that someone took pity on me. I'm like, and I had the means to do it. So what about the women who don't have the means to do it and they can't go out. It's real easy to say move out for 12 months, but if you don't have money to put down a deposit on an apartment, you're not leaving.
A lot of people will say to me in consults, because, divorce consult, you go through the finances, the this and all this stuff. Well, I don't know what the finances are. He keeps track of them all, or I have no idea how much money he makes. And I've found that to be a lot more difficult these days with newer marriages than it was, say, when my parents got married. Because my parents, I know they're.
Oh heck, I was way surprised when financial declaration came across my desk from him.
Oh, I'm sure. And a lot of people go, "Oh, he's full of shit," or but they don't have any way to say other than that. And it surprises me. Like, well, what kind of car do you drive? Like, I mean, I'll ask, certain things that kind of give me maybe an idea, but at the same time, it's a surprise. And self-employed people, even harder.
Yeah. So that's a passion project of mine. Maybe you and I can talk about that down the road, but I want to start some type of foundation where we create group housing that is like, if you just need to take the first step to leave without figuring like, oh my gosh, where am I going to get an apartment? Because that stifles people from leaving, and creating that, like, you can come live here month to month or week to week, or just to get them going. And then you give them other resources to help them.
I know, because a weekly hotel in Myrtle Beach is a really bad idea. It's not.
Yeah, correct. But, it's going to be time for us to wrap up. And I know this episode, Warner's, was a little more personal, not so much business, but the business thing I do want you to think about is, are you in a situation that is similar to this in some way, that is preventing you from having the best life, and is preventing you from being good at your job or being good in your business? I know that it affected my business, and once I got out, everything exploded in a positive way, in a really positive way, because I wasn't emotionally in a really bad place anymore. So I want you to think about, how is that affecting you? If you're in sales, is it affecting your sales? If you run your own business, is it affecting that? Think about that and take the steps to do what's best for you. That's my little public service announcement. Allison, if you want to share with us your phone number or a website as well, audibly, how would people reach out to you?
So, as you heard in the beginning, my name is Allison Gordon. I am the owner of Gordon Law Firm, and the office number is 843-936-1010. If there's anything I can do to help anybody, schedule a consultation. If you're thinking about it, not quite sure, reach out. I'm always happy to sit down with people for their scheduled time and take the time that I need. I feel it's really important, especially with domestic relation cases, that you sit down and not necessarily, put a time cap. You do what you need to do to take care of people. But if there's anything I can do, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to reach out. And
awesome.
talk.
Do we want to ask our? Do you want to ask our last signature questions?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
I do.
Get it.
We have these signature questions that we ask people, Allison. And so, number one is, how do you define the word sexy?
Can I say me? I'm
you
just kidding.
You can.
So now describe yourself and tell us what's sexy about you.
Female lawyer. And I know that's a very weird thing, because you would be like, have you seen most of them? But I feel sexy in a suit. I feel powerful. And when I feel good, I do good. And I understand that's not grammatically correct, but that's exactly how it is.
When I feel good, I do good.
Look good, feel good, do
I
good.
feel
And
good.
honestly, Allison, I wish more women felt that way about themselves. It actually brings tears to my eyes, because I know so many women that are so self-deprecating, and they are beautiful and they are amazing, and they don't believe that they are. And so good for you. I like that a lot.
It took a long time to feel this way, and I hope nobody thinks something negative about that.
No,
there's
nothing negative about that, and I'm gonna hit it up again about counseling and therapy, and how important that is. One of the I finally found a really amazing counselor, and I've been to a few through. I went through 4 marriage counselors, but finally a great one-on-one counselor who literally day one said to me, "I know you think you're all confident and all that, but you have a self-worth issue." And I'm like, what? What in the world are you talking about, lady?
You fake it till you make it, until you truly believe it.
But I think part of the problem is that we're actually born. It's not a problem. We're born with self-worth, and then external things happen that chip away at our self-worth. So that's another important piece of it, is that when you have self-worth, you value yourself exactly as you are, and you love yourself exactly as you are, and that brings confidence, and that brings sexy. That brings sexy back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Next question.
Question number 2 is, what's the best advice you've ever been given, Allison?
When you've had enough, you'll leave. Because without me repeating it over and over to myself, I don't know how I have a very strong mom and family, but I don't know if that anything else has ever resonated with me as much.
That's awesome.
Because I can use it to help other people. I mean, really, I know it sounds cliche considering that's what we're talking about, but really, I don't, off the top of my head, first gut reaction was that.
Great. It's good advice, especially considering what we've been talking about. Any advice that you wish you had been given?
Wouldn't go with the word advice, but I remember saying to my mother, I wish I had someone like me when I was going through this. And my mom got pissed at me. She's like, excuse me, hi, I was right here. But you don't want your family necessarily going through that. But I guess don't be afraid to reach out despite, well, I don't know. Just keep going. I mean, really the best advice ever, but I wish I had someone like me going through what I went through back then that I provide for my clients. And that sounds like such a dick answer. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It's not, though, because what happens to people in those scenarios is they feel really isolated. Yeah. They are purposefully isolated and they feel lonely. They're afraid to tell anybody. And so, it actually is great advice. Like, people do need to feel like there's somebody that can understand.
Again, and my divorce wasn't as tragic from, an abuse situation, but there were moments of isolation and alienation because I was talking to Rachel about this. I could talk about my pending divorce, and then everyone had their version of their divorce to project upon me. And I was like, no, I'm not, my divorce is not your divorce. And then it eventually just shut me down to like not talk about it, because I felt like, I'm like, I just want you to shut the fuck up and listen to me. I don't need to hear about your divorce. I just need you. You should at least be empathetic enough, because you know the pain of divorce, but I don't need your story. And when you're in it,
every case is different. That's why I always say it. I can't tell because every case is different. There's no guarantees. That's why I say what I say.
Yeah. Well, this was super fun having you on the show, and we hope, Warners, that you got something out of this. Sorry, guys, for our male listeners, maybe you didn't.
Well, whoa. Let me stop you right there, because it goes both ways. Men do not necessarily come forward. However, I'm pretty sure represented at least one guy in my career. So this goes to guys too. I know we focused on women a lot because that's statistically the larger number, but the reason it's a larger number is because men don't report it.
Yeah.
There's crazy bitches out there, and you know it. Okay, let's say it like it is, guys. We all know women are crazy, okay? That's okay. But at the same time, it's less reported. It's an underreported thing. South Carolina has the highest, one of the highest in the nation, domestic violence. Or even deaths relating to domestic violence. Okay, I've had a friend killed in Charleston. I can't remember what year it was, but she's, DV, her and her child were killed by him. And, men, it's okay. It's not embarrassing. If someone ever shames you for it, shame on them. It happens. No one should be beating on anybody else. Nobody should be putting you down. It doesn't matter what gender you are.
Yeah, and men are also conditioned. Many men are conditioned to not hit back. So if you have a crazy hitting you, you're taking it because that's what you were taught. You were taught not to hit.
And they leave, and the cops come, and the girl has done something to herself. I just got that same exact case dismissed this week. That's why I'm saying what like that. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't sometimes. So, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who can maybe advise you on that and what to do if you are seeing, if you're in that situation, but you're not quite sure. Anything you talk to a lawyer about is confidential. It won't be spread out. So don't be afraid to reach out. Okay. If you're concerned.
Awesome. Well, that's good. Thanks for chiming in on that. This is not just about women. This also happens to men. So Warners, take care of yourself. And everything else will flow together. This is the end of our episode today with Allison Gordon. Thank you once again to Allison for being on the show. And thank you, Warners, for listening to all of our episodes. And if you would like more information about our show, if you're new to the show, go check us out at womenyourmotherwarnsyouabout.com, and you will find all of our episodes there, as well as links to our social media and links to Rachel and I and the ever so we don't know where he is, Keith Walters. There's information about him there too.
I can also add my website if that's okay.
Please do.
www.attorneyallisongordon.com, and you spell my name ALLISONGORDON.
Awesome.
Sweet. And also, if you guys found value in this episode, then please do someone a favor and share this episode with them, especially if you know someone who is in a complicated relationship that might need to hear some of this from us, or any other episode that you've heard from us. That is the best way to help us spread the love.
As we are entering into our third season, Women Your Mother Warned You About. Yeah. So that's it. We're out. Warners, have an awesome one. See ya.
This really will get serious soon.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. I don't think anybody wants it to be serious.
Women Your Mother Warned You About is a Pod About It production. You've got a great idea. Let's pod about it. Visit podaboutit.com for more information.
Woof, woof. Monkey, monkey.